Hello, and welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I am joined by Big Dillon, who will now hopefully make noise because I have turned it off and turned it back on again. Big Dillon.
How much is that fish?
Right, so I could see your audio coming through.
No,
No video,
no
no audio.
video, no audio.
For goodness sake. Let me have a look.
We hear him. It's just Ishik trolling.
Yeah, I know. I've now got the
Ishik.
stream up on my second monitor, you bellends.
Yeah,
So I am
Ishik's
now
just-
going through the chat. Absolute messes. How are you doing, Neil? I'm
what a
glad we can now
fantastic
hear
image.
your excellent story that you told me about the myth of Big Dillon
Big Dillon, yeah.
before we went live. So I had a great
And
time hearing a private story, and you guys didn't. Shame on
yeah,
you.
and I would tell you all about the story of Big Dillon, except
Mm.
that Ishik, no, because of Ishik.
Ishik doesn't get the stories I get. Okay, Ishik, he only tells me certain things. Okay, because we're tight. You see. Okay, that's fine. How have you been anyway, Neil? You all right? Had a good week?
Yeah, I mean, just being full-time dad. I clocked in Monday to Friday. I clocked in 72 kilometers.
Nice. In one day.
So, though between Monday and Friday, so in 5 days, I did way more than I was doing 13 a day.
Yeah,
What
that's
was
really
12,
good.
13 a day?
Mate, that makes me look like an amateur because the gyms have reopened here and I've been trying to do 5 kilometers a day every day just in a gym rather than
Was
like
walking.
outside. No, just running. But
I sound walking. I'm walking.
yeah, but like you've done like triple the distance, so like I feel like that counts as something. So other than that, you've been well. You've been all right. You've been
Yeah. I
enjoying
mean,
being a dad.
sun is finally out.
Mm-hmm.
The weather is getting good. I'll actually
Mm.
be able to my huge Arctic winter jackets finally got hung up in the cupboard for the next 6 months, which
Yeah.
is lovely. So yeah, it's been really really nice
Yeah.
actually.
Now you need to find something else to wear to keep all the wolves off you, I guess. We need to address the elephant in the room very, very quickly, and that is Rob is not here today, and that is because he has been streaming the Hammer Time Age of Sigmar tournament for the entire weekend, and we sent him outside because he was getting. If we left him inside any longer, he would have become a ghost.
Yeah, he was smelling.
He was
quite bad.
smelling and incredibly pale. Thank you very much, Melka, for the resubscription. I hope I pronounced that right. At least I put some effort into it, unlike the normal host. So I'm having that one. Thank you very much. So, Neil, this is the last week of the Great
No, no,
Hammer
no, no, no,
2
no,
event,
Tom.
right?
How are you doing,
Oh,
Tom?
no
How
one
is
cares.
your week,
Nobody
Tom?
cares. Like Tom is fine. Tom hasn't changed. Tom's just been sat here for 3 weeks, and he's going back to work tomorrow, and he's very grumpy about it. So no one wants to hear about that. That's absolutely fine. So, Greekhammer team tournament. We are into our last week now. We've already done all the pairings, and last week, who did we talk about last week, Neil?
So last week we talked about the hottest takes,
we
which is
did.
the internet super sensations led by Liam Vessel, the best TTS player in the world, versus Poland. Obviously, Poland being probably the most winningest team of all time at WTC, and it turns out that Tom, you and me don't have a fucking clue what we're talking about.
It is true. I just make it up as I go along, but you should know
Yeah.
better, Neil. Come on.
Yeah, so people who listened last week will have noticed that we obviously the hottest takes had a space wolf list ran by Jamie Paris, and this was like a space wolf list with like loads of Wolfguard with jump packs and Skyclaws. It was all just an army of space wolves with jump packs, and we were like, okay, bring the army you like, bring the army you play down in the pub, kind of thing. That's cool, but we saw something he's going to go against this Chaos Demon list of like Keeper of Secrets and all this like Chaos Demons that want to get in combat, and they're like, we just can't see how this is going to work. We don't understand it. Clearly, we don't understand it because Jamie
True.
absolutely crushed it and got 17 points in that game.
I feel like at that point we just bully the Polish player, right? We absolutely do know what we're talking about. It's just that the Polish player shit the bed, and
Yeah,
it's
so
entirely their fault.
so the Polish player is Bart. He's actually a WTC vet, so he has no fucking clue what he's doing clearly. And
Clearly, yeah.
and obviously, Vladi and Tiffus being the two selectors for this shit, and David as well being the selectors of the Polish team. They need to listen to us because even though we don't know what we're talking about, clearly we know more than they do because you shouldn't have a shower of a player on that team.
Yeah, understandable.
I should have to buy Bart a beer now.
Oh dear, never mind. It's okay. You'll buy everybody beers on the first night of WTC when we finally get
But
to it
yeah.
anyway, and you won't remember it the day after.
But honestly, we both backed Poland to win by a small margin.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, what was the final score, Neil?
The final score is Poland 81, hottest takes 79.
I mean, technically, Poland got more points.
One single point more, so
That's
it's a draw. That is that is tight,
Yeah,
to say the
that
least.
is very, very tight. So what does that mean for the top of the table? Does that mean whoever... Because there are two, like,
There are four
tables.
teams.
Yeah.
There are 4 teams going into this round, are all on 7 points.
Mm.
Poland, hottest takes, and then Ukraine and Germany scouting, who we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
So now Poland and hottest takes finish the tournament 8 points, which means if either Ukraine or Germany win this round, they win the whole event.
That's really good. So that has really opened the door for today's pairing show.
Yeah, it's actually magically worked out. The final pairing show of this event we're going to talk about is the game for first place.
I feel like, Neil, what we did there was we took the game that we knew was going to be a draw and we just hyped it up. And, we did some showmanship, whereas really behind the scenes we big brained it and we knew. I say you pick all the games.
Exactly. We secretly knew that Poland and hottest takes were going to draw, so we talked about them last week, knowing that this would be the match that decides it all.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, you've already mentioned Ukraine. What's the kind of backstory of Ukraine this event? Because we've already seen them once, so that means that it implies they've been on the top tables already. How have they done this event?
So they put their opening round. They played against a team called the Team from Nowhere, who I believe is sort of it's from Frenchies. I think he's from Frenchies, and they smashed that round 115-45. Wow.
Yeah,
so big. Sort of like but we're quite a routine veteran WTC team here, going up against we'll say non-veteran WTC team. I don't recognise any of the names there. No offence to the players on this team, but I don't recognise your names. And I'm not a regular in the French tournament scene, so I only know the guys that go to the WTC. In the next round, they played Poland and they got a draw. And that was 79-81 to Ukraine. So again, super tight. They got a draw, super tight draw. Then they played FTA.
Fuck the Aussies.
Something like that, yeah. And they completely crushed this game.
Okay.
132.
That's really big.
Really big.
Yeah.
Then they played in round 4 they played the Polish Jackstraws, which is like one of there's 3 Polish teams. This is one of the Polish teams. We talked about them before as well. I mean, they're basically the Polish B team because there's guys like Kubi and stuff like that. There are guys that there are guys there that and they crushed that 109-51.
They seem to be smashing some teams and then drawing. Like they either seem to smash or they seem to kind of peter out, but they don't seem easy to beat.
Well, they drew against Poland, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
Drawing against Poland is no mean feat, to say the least.
As hottest takes just proved.
Yeah, exactly. Poland are big boys in the WTC world. Drawing against them is a big deal. So draws against them and then scoring big hits against, we'll say, the less routine teams.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when you're going up against the other kind of winningest team from a WTC in Germany this round. Have they done this event?
Yeah, give me half a second. I've just got to go back in Tawny Keeper to pull up them.
I did discover Tawny Keeper can do a lot of work with stats, actually. It's
the random stat page there, which is very good. So, the Germany scouting, we'll say Germany A, because it's essentially what it is. You've got Fred, who is the captain, the Germany captain. You've got people like Simon Erding, Martin de Jong, Marvin Pettersson, Fritz Peters. These are seasoned players in this team. So round 1, they played the Polish Fish in Greek style, which is the third Polish team. It's half Polish, half Greeks, and they gave that a big beating, 109 points in that game. And then they played the semi-croissants.
Oh yeah, I remember those guys.
Which is our guys, the French guys, which we covered that game, and they won that round 92-68.
But yeah, still a win.
Closer. Yeah. And then they went against Canada in round 3. And poor Canada took an absolute beating here, 116-44.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like Canada learned a lot from that. Speaking to people like Jim and Chris, that was a round I picked up a lot from because it's the caliber of players you're hitting there, right? Like, you don't get to play against Erding and Fred every day, do you?
No, you don't. So playing high caliber players learn a lot. And again, this tournament is for a lot of the, especially I'll say definitely for the WTC teams, the WTC players play this team. This is very much practice because before this event started, people were still hoping to run a WTC in August, so a lot of teams were taking advantage of this as a live practice for events.
Yeah.
So even if you're losing, but losing to a team like Germany, you're going to learn a lot from it, as you
100%.
said. And then in round 4, they played hottest takes and scored. Can you guess what the score was? This is a game of hottest takes in it, and bear in mind, almost 79-81 to hottest takes. So there is this tendency.
Is that the one with the Space
Wolf
list that we talked about earlier?
Yes, this is hottest takes in the Space Wolf list.
You should have been listening. You'd have known.
And the Space Wolf guy lost. He played Simon Erding and lost 15-5.
Yeah.
So Paris there, but Liam crushed it again for 18 points there. The king of TTS crushed it. So they've had. Germany have had. Not an easy one either. So now they've gone to the final round. Say it's Germany, Ukraine, and it is literally whoever, because hottest takes and Poland have drawn. It means that if either of these two teams wins this round, they win the whole event.
100%. As we say, prescience in picking the matchups, right? So we'll go straight into the pairings, because it's one thing to go for like a list of all the lists, right? But we could just do that as we're going through the pairings and explain why these lists are built the way they are, rather than just a meaningless list of garbage that no one's going to remember when we bring it up on the slides. So let's just bring up the slides straight away. So the first matchup we have, whoosh, there it is. Look at that, amazing.
Are you going to be Germany, or shall I be Germany?
Well, I actually have all my monitors filled with streaming gear, so I could pull it up. However,
I can do the work.
Thank you. I will do the hosting, and you will be the info bot, despite the fact that Neil does not play 40k. So, first.
No, but I still beat Tom.
You did, with strengthful weapons. First round. By the looks of this, Germany won the roll-off to pick the first board. So they decide to put down, Moonty Raid, who I believe would be Moon Tyrannid, because I am capable of reading, has donated £3.62 to the stream, bringing us up to 680. Thank you very much, Moon Tyrannid. That is very generous of me. We do appreciate that. Cheers, buddy. So, back to the list. Germany put down the Death Guard as first defender. Now, we did talk a little bit about this in the Hottest Takes match, which we thought was a little bit weird to put the Death Guard down as first defender. And yet, Germany themselves have done it too. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I mean, this... Again, I feel like it's not, for me, an archetype first defender, because there are a lot of bad matchups at Death Guard. But it could be a case of it's just you're backing your play, your player knows, saying he knows I can get the points out of this, and they're just going to back it. Or it could be a case of there are no particularly great matchups for this guy, or maybe there's only like one matchup or something that's very favourable for him. So it's better to sort of throw him under the bus and say, go first and take the worst matchup for the rest of the team. Is very much going to be the case there.
That's fair, and it may be worth getting one of the Germans of the Hottest Takes on at some point just to ask them why this has evolved across the tournament, because, I mean, we could talk about the pairings all we want, but there have been a couple of really interesting evolutions that I've seen coming out of this event. A good example being, before the Greekhammer team tournament, I thought the Sisters into Death Guard was a bad matchup for the Sisters, yet here we are seeing them attack the Death Guard. How do you feel about that one, Neil?
I mean, I've seen this game recently. There was a practice weekend a couple of weekends ago here in Gothenburg, and I saw this, Jimmy, Team Sweden Death Guard player up against Max, who's a potential Sisters player for Team Sweden, and it just which way we work it. The Sisters have got the mobility to pin the Death Guard in, and the ability to trade out well enough that by the end of the game there are generally more Death Guard left on the board than Sisters, but it's too late because the Death Guard have never been able to gain board position.
It's very difficult to push the Sisters, isn't it, really, even if you have got fight last, especially when you're that slow and for a forest everywhere. Although I guess maybe if you pick the board it's not quite as bad.
No, potentially not. And this Germany list is a bit more mobile, because this is the Death Guard list that has 3 bloated drones, which has not been the norm at this tournament, at least. So it's got 3 very mobile units. You definitely be able to sort of pick objectives or do your engage on all fronts there. It's got triple plate bursts, which is always solid, always a solid choice. Very good at sniping. It's got a Contemptor Dreadnought with the Volkites. It's got some Death Shrouds, a small unit of Blight Lords, Interestingly, only 20 Poxwalkers, but it's got a nice unit of air play bearers there. So he's gone more. The points have been sunk a little bit into the plane marines, which are a bit more survival than the Poxwalkers, and into the bloat drones for the mobility, and the play burst crawlers for. Yeah, they're not the most devastating shooting, but it's very reliable shooting.
And when you're playing against sisters, it allows you to pick things off really and make it harder for the sisters to sit on the middle objectives and get you loads of primaries, right?
Yeah, especially with, I can't remember the name of the strat, but there's the new strat, which is the one where it's like, it basically, you hit one unit, you spread all the mortal wounds around. So the sisters don't, you say the sisters want to be sat on that middle objective, castling up there. They're not going to do that if their playburst crawlers dump. One of those playburst crawlers is dumping that strat down.
And equally, you can't stick one unit on there because all three of the playburst crawlers just like blow you off because they're not reliable, but you got three of them, so you're probably going to be able to make that.
Yeah, and so that's the Death Guard list. The sisters list is, without being mean, it's it's free retributors, it's triple retributors, triple repentiers, pretty much everything. The big difference with the Ukrainian list is they don't go for the triumph of
I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a big fan of Catherine.
Well, we talked about it previously. The just the sheer ability for the triumph gives you for manipulating the destiny. It's not destiny dice.
It's basically the same thing.
It's
the same thing, but in AOS.
Yeah. So the miracle dice, it's just so good. It's just such a force multiplier.
Yeah, it's 10 extra miracle dice.
Well, especially because the sisters as an army function, strength is the miracle 100%. Dice. So you want the force multiplier there. So they had the option against the sister army and had the option against this a Chaos Space Marine Chaos Knight list, which essentially is 20 /Terminators, 2 lots of 5 spawns. You got the spawns, mobile spawn, the Terminators, which we've talked many times about before. How super reliable deep strike when they're coming down is favor of the Dark Prince. I believe that's the name of the strats, which basically allows when they roll their 2d6 to charge, one of the dice is automatically a 6. So they're pretty much getting that 9-inch charge off in deep strike every time they come down. And then 7 Warglaves, Chaos version of the Warglaves, the Warhounds with the War Dogs with the thermal cannons and the Chain Glaives. So this is a list we've talked about previously. It's very hard to deal with. It's pretty nasty. And I think, absolutely, in that choice, you would definitely want to take the sisters because you're not. That's Slanesh list, the Chaos Space Marine list, the Night list. I don't think there's anything Death Guard.
No, not really.
There. They haven't got. There's no effective screens. The Poxwalkers will just disappear instantly. They can't stop the Slash Servants coming down and chopping things up, and the Warglaves have a field day.
So I actually played this matchup. I played the 14 Omnigas into the Death Guard, and the Death Guard just couldn't deal with it. They just got rolled. Like you can't kill that much stuff. It's just too much for you. Also, we are seeing a little bit of variation here. We've seen a little bit of a pivot away from the Omnigas and the War Dogs, but we're also seeing a pivot towards the 20 Slanesh Terminators. And there seems to be a bit of a conversation going on at the minute as to what to pair those 20 Terminators with. Sometimes I've seen them with Big Demon lists. Here we're seeing them with Chaos Knights. And it'll be interesting to see how they evolve in the future.
Yeah, definitely.
So
it's definitely it's a first defense. Death Guard's the first defender. It's a favourable matchup for the sisters, but you expect the Death Guard to castle and score points anyway.
Yeah, 100%. And Heminista, there will be a link to the Greekhammer list. Do you have one in the description of most of the podcast, Neil? Is that correct?
There is a description in all the podcasts, yes. Or Hermanista, if you just go on to if you go on the WTC Facebook page, looking in the podcasts we put up there, there'll be a link there. Or actually just go onto the Greekhammer's Facebook page.
There you go. Thank you very much. He's going to go find another Armageddon Warclave list to play. Fantastic. So, in the second slide, we have Ukraine's first defender, and once again, we see Death Guard as first defender.
Just before we go on. I just wind the clock back a little bit to the previous fire because what I'm trying to do, because some of the games have been played. So after we've talked about it, I've quickly clicked on, had a look, and I found Calvin, Germany, with their Death Guard versus Alexander Ruslov with the sisters. And once again, we do not know what the hell we're talking about, Tom, because the Death Guard's got 16
I told you Death
points.
Guard was a good matchup for sisters.
But that's a very big. That's a very big. That's a big deal for your first. As a defender, you're expecting to lose. Taking 16 points as a defender is
potentially
massive.
what could happen there is that the sisters didn't roll any good miracle dice in the early turns, which meant that the Death Guard had the freedom to just push straight away onto the sisters, and therefore you can't really do too much, right? And also, if you have board pick, you can really neuter the Retributors if you need to as well. And even turn 1 is actually kind of useful because turn 2 doesn't really matter because you can sit on the mid boards anyway with the Death Guard, even into the sisters, because you got -1 damage and you can turn off a rerolls from the Repentia. And then turn 1 just allows you to get that push nice and early as well. So there is a potential for that swing, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So if we move on to the second slide then, whoosh, we
can,
have got
yes.
more Death Guard
Click
being
that
defended.
button.
Why? Why
Yes.
does this keep happening, Neil?
Well, we say why, but we just sing why.
Results-based analysis, Neil. Results-based analysis.
Yeah. So once again, our armchair, generalship, not even seeing the game, just sitting here, spouting our opinions off pieces of paper, obviously. But so the Ukraine put a Death Guard down, and the Death Guard list here for Ukraine is not knocking the Ukrainian player for it, but I will say it's just Nick Nanavati's list in the Art of War. It's the list that he's been rocking for a month or two now. Very finely honed with the big block of Blight Lords, 10 Blight Lords, some Death Shrouds, Poxwalkers, the Volkite Dread. It's a pretty good list. Definitely nothing to be laughed at. It's got the Blight Drones as well. Which is a solid list there. Solid list there, definitely.
Yeah. This time we're not attacked with sisters.
Not attacked with sisters. Strange. So clearly Germany this isn't a good matchup, unlike me and you. And so Germany triggered. So triggered. So Germany attack firstly with a Force of the Hive Mind list, which is a Genius of the Cult. Basic Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor Patrol. It's got a Patriarch in it because he's an absolute beast in combat, and it's got some hybrids because they're also good as a bomb, and it's got some neophytes just to score objectives. It's then got your typical Kronos detachment with the Psychopowers with the double Genius of 5 Hive Guard and the Exocrank to give you that reliable shooting. And then the final detachment is Death Corps Krieg, which essentially they've taken 20 combat engineers, tuned to 10,
that's clever, actually. I like that.
30 Death Riders.
It's interesting to see a Tyranid style list without the big Demacarons in as well. I kind of like that. I like the idea of allying in the Death Corps of Krieg as well. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, Death Corps of Krieg here, as we know, because they have the old school Feel No Pain and they're mobile. They are just so good at taking control of the board and screening and denying movement, and they're hypermobile for it. The combat engineers have a lot of little shenanigans with these little gas grenades of theirs, and then you're backing it up with solid shooting from the NID formation, and then the GSC. It gives you the Cult of Four-Armed Emperor. Plan of Housing is amazing. It gives you the Vex strat, which is always big, and it gives you just a little bit of combat mixing around you can maybe do with. Yeah. So it's definitely a solid list there. It's a list that pushes up the board, takes control of the board, and forces you to really fight your way through it. Because while you're working with those Death Riders, the Hive Guard are peppering you constantly. The extra crimes. It's not easy.
And while as the Death Guard you can shrug off a lot of the Hive Guard damage because of the -1 damage you have inbuilt, you're still kind of slow and it's going to take you a while to grind through all that kind of stuff. So even if you're going to win the game as Death Guard, I don't think you should win it very big.
Yeah, exactly. And then the Germans also attacked with a list that, for some reason, every time I look at this list, I just think of Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim pops into my head. The Demon and Chaos Space Marine list, and it's 3 Exalted Creepers, an Exalted Lord Change, 4 units of Nurglings, and then an Iron Warrior detachment that is essentially, for want of a better word, it's 3 Leviathan Dreadnoughts with fists.
There you go.
With fists and Gravflux Bombards.
That feels more like Red Alert 3, to be honest, mate, because that's a very weird combination of large constructs.
Yeah, it's big robots and big Gribblies, but they're not fighting each other. They're all fighting against you this time. And that's a real sort of smash face list. And that's the list Ukraine chose to go up against, which is interesting because I just feel that the Death Guard, there's just so much face smashing there that it's going to be half a Death Guard to take that. But again, I think that's maybe a case of Ukraine. I mean, this is definitely a case of Ukraine going, hey, let's remove that list from the rest of the pairings. We don't have to deal with that because that is a really nasty list, especially if it gets first turn, gets a push on the board. It'll pick an open board. So the Keepers and the Dreads, they're reasonably tough, and they just maybe want to have an open board to run across. And so they want to take this out of the pairings now, deny it the board it wants, and just deal with it, and obviously then have better matchups later.
Yeah, and also if you're looking to tank it on something, Death Guard isn't the worst thing in the world. Like, I don't think it's good for you because you've got so few wounds per point that you're paying. But at the same time, it's like it's better than tanking it on something with low wound count and low durability base anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe you get some points out of that. So and you've got your own secondaries, so maybe you can get some points there and squeeze out something.
Ah, here we go. I'm gonna absolutely murder your name, Siandak, asking why I picked the map.
That looks Welsh. Is he Welsh?
It's
I want
because
to play for
no,
me too.
this was the guy who played for the Nids. So
There you
stretching
go.
into this
Could still be Welsh.
So this is the guy that gave Laddie a bit of a pony.
Good.
So yeah,
Good job.
there we go. Now we know.
Nice. There we go.
So yeah, we don't have the result for this game yet.
No.
This has actually been played right now. I think they started an hour or two ago.
It's okay. It's in the Greekhammer Discord, I would assume, if anyone wants to go and watch that. But I won't give you a link until we finish the show.
No.
You're staying here. Thank you very much. Moving on, we have the second round of defenders, and the next defender goes up for Ukraine, which is...
It is their Raven Guard list.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting Raven Guard list. We talked about this before. You've got your your 20 Vanguard vets, which is no surprises there. But it's also got a ton of Bolt aggressors, the Bolt Storm aggressors, which we talked about this. It brings something a bit different to the list. I'm obviously babbling away on trying to scroll down because I had the wrong list open. I had the German one open there, which is very silly of me. Very
you're fine. It's a space
but it's interesting the fact that it's giving you that little bit of options there. Because you get the Vanguards, obviously the Vanguards. They've got a few fists. It's not just lightning claws. They've got fists in it. You've got fists and thunder hammers in this. It's like
fists are a weird choice, man.
It's 3 power fists, a thunder hammer and a sergeant, and then lightning claws for the rest of the guys. Everyone obviously storm shields. You've got a big unit of 5 aggressors in there, which I like the aggressors. It just gives you that ability to churn through chaff at a very high rate. The Vanguard do it, but it just gives you that little bit more. So because the Vanguard will hit and kill most things. The Blade Guard give you, not Blade Guard, the aggressors give you that extra option. So you can go into a more hoardy army and not get bogged down to how much shooting they can put out. Because obviously you'll push them forward, take a good ball position, just sit there for the whole game. It's got the Plasma Inceptors, which no one's expecting. So everyone's expecting no surprises there. And it's got some company vets for sort of like action monkeys, and then your Primus Chaplain on bike, and the usual stuff there.
It's pretty
standard. It's a pretty standard list. I like it. Just thank inclusion of the aggressors instead of because he's got one unit of 5 Blade Guard, and most people maybe take a second unit of 5 Blade Guard or another unit of our Vanguard vets. Putting the aggressors in, I think, just gives you a little flavour, but actually opens up options as well for this list. So I like that.
100%. And once again, we see the Gene Stealer Cult, Tyrannid, Death Corps of Krieg army being put against it to attack. But we also see an army we haven't seen yet, Neil, and that is in the form of the German Necron build. Is this build like similar to everything we've seen before with the Catan shards and the relentlessly expansionist and all that kind of jazz, or is it a little bit different? It
is and it isn't. This is Simon Erding's list, and he's actually switched it up. In the first couple of rounds, this was all Canotech, Wraiths, and Scorpec Destroyers, which was a super solid list. He switched it up a bit. The core's still there. It's still built on a core of 15 Wraiths, which is nasty no matter what. But now he's actually gone in for a Transcendent Satan and the Nightbringer as well.
Okay, the Nightbringer is an interesting inclusion. I mean, it makes it difficult to charge into you. But at the same time, it is expensive, isn't it?
He is expensive. Now, I can be completely accurate. I actually did tune in at one point in one of Simon's games in the earlier rounds. That's when he played against the Semi-Crus Lance in Frenchies. And Simon lost to Olivier, the captain. Daddy Beaver, and he lost basically because a bunch of assault terminators and Vanguard vets just sort of tanked and chopped away through all the Wraiths and Scorpets, everything. I'm not saying it's a reaction just to that particular game, but having something like the Nightbringer gets rid of that problem.
Yeah, 100%. Not just through his ability to ignore invulnerable saves in close combat. I mean, because he is quite inconsistent with that. But also his Gaze of Death, Catan power is very, very strong. You pick 3 units within 9 inches and on a 4+, or you pick a unit within 9 inches and it takes a D3 mortal wounds for every 4+ you roll, and you roll 3. So you have the potential to do a lot of damage to something there. When you consider how valuable just getting a smite off is most of the time, it shows you how valuable that mortal wound output kind of is.
Exactly, and then you've also got normal Satan there as well with the antimatter meteor and the transdimensional thunderbolt. So you've got some reliable elite killing. power there.
Specifically to get through toughness values and damage reduction and feeling up.
Because that is the Wraith's problem, because the Wraiths have a lot of attacks, but they don't have a lot of AP backing them up.
Yeah.
And that is their fall down there. So the Wraiths can shred stuff, but they can't shred tanky stuff.
True. The
two Satan give you that option. And as you said, otherwise, it's Relentless Expansionists and Eternal Conquerors. No surprises there.
Pretty standard. Either way, that list gets rejected. We see the weirdy beardy Tyrannid Genestealer Cult Imperial Guard list being played up against a Raven Guard. I'm not sure how this goes for the weirdy beardy Tyranids. Maybe it bogs down the Raven Guard a bit and it has enough screening to deal with it. I don't know. But it feels slightly swingy to me. I don't know.
It's very swingy, I think. That Raven, if the Death Claw can go first and can push the Riders out, it's going to be a long time for the Raven Guard to get through all of them. Flip side of it is that the Raven Guard gets to go first, get to push up early. Obviously, their infiltration, or their Raven Guard shenanigans, and attack. They can use their aggressors to punch a hole through the screen very effectively. They'll easily be able to knock out a unit or two there with all the shots, and then just get into the middle of the army. Get into the middle of that Hive Guard Hive Guard and the X-Crime with their Vanguard vets are really doing a number there. So it is a super swingy matchup, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Do we have a result in for this one, Neil, or is it still ongoing?
I'm going to quick have a look now. Where are we? Ukraine. Yep. So 20-0 to Simon, to German Necrons.
So German Necrons?
Oh, yeah. So
they picked the Necrons.
Sorry. Am I looking at the wrong?
Have you spoiled it?
No. I've spoiled another match.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's hurting, so it's not really a spoiler.
They've not played this game yet. Sorry,
okay,
Martin Peterson.
I'm just gonna quickly test something from the other side of the room. This is very unprofessional, but I feel like in the UK the sun is setting now, so that's fine. We can edit that out the VOD, or nobody will notice, and that'll be fine. That's okay. So, moving on swiftly to the second defender for Germany, they decide to put down. Once again, we've seen Admech put down as a defender after the Death Guard, which feels weird when you want certain boards. But whatever, the light boards are still available. Maybe that's why Germany went for it this time. What do you think, Neil?
It could be, and you could easily be Germany could easily be looking at Ukraine's previous matches.
Yeah.
Because obviously the information is available. So looking at those matches, see what's gone on, and maybe Germany have identified the fact that Ukraine are doing what they're doing, and therefore they know there is less of a risk of losing the Admech board early on.
Yeah, 100%.
Because they obviously want to pick one of those more open boards. And this list here it's quite interesting. This is a list sort of semi-reminiscent of the past two ETCs, 2018 and 2019. Yeah. Germany ran a list that had a lot of Electro Priests in both times. And this just seems to be an updated version of that. It's an evolution of that. And I quite like it. It's Mars, it's Call. So you actually got Call in there from the few Admech players in this tournament running Call. It's got Manipulus. It's got 3 Vanguard units, just for obviously getting the points in there. And then it's got 3 units of Corpuscaria Electro Priests and a unit of 10 Fulgurite Electro Priests. Okay. So you got the Shooty Boys and you've got the Choppy Boys. It's also got some Rust Stalkers, which are great little action monkeys because they can deep strike down. So things like Scramblers or Engage, stuff like that. So depending on the match, if you play for example a Custodes army, you can Scramblers all day long.
100%. Yeah.
But you can do other things. It's an Engage as well. It's an Engage. There's a lot of things you can do there.
Yeah.
And then it's got a unit 4, which I haven't seen much of. A unit 4 Ballistaria for autocannons.
Are they the Chicken Walkers?
The Shooty Chicken Walkers. We haven't seen much of them in this tournament. They seem to at least. This tournament is the 4 now. I mean, I still highly respect it, especially the fact you got Call in there. So Call, obviously, the Mars cans Call with the rerolls and Wrath on Mars. You've got a very effective unit there. Can just dish out a horrific amount of mortal wound and high strength damage to shots.
Yeah, and I've actually seen a lot of these in practice, so I'm a little bit surprised to say, but we haven't seen them in Greekhammer.
Yeah, and then it's got 2 big units of Raiders, 8 man each, 2 Scorpius Disintegrators, and then the Ornithopter, the Bomber, the Fusillade, for slowing people down. So it's a good list. It's a list. This list reminds me a lot of stuff of a list that Rickard Nielsen, who's one of my regular opponent, plays. And I'd say if he's playing them, it's a solid list. Basically, I've played kind of this kind of list, and it's very hard to deal with. The big units of Raiders I really like. The Ballistaria I very much like, and the Electro Priests give you so many options there. and they're very natural attributes are quite tanky against the right kind of shooting.
Yeah. So once again, we see the Chaos list put down. That's one of the War Dogs, the 20 Slanesh Terminators. We've already been through that one pretty much. We kind of know how that magic goes as well. It's a little bit swingy again because it depends on how quickly you can kill all the other stuff. But if you can fan out quite well enough, which this looks like it can do, it should probably be reasonably okay. The list that we haven't seen yet is the Harlequins list that's gone down for the Ukrainians. Neil, what does this list look like? Pretty traditional. There's not too many.
Well, this is actually it's actually a Harlequin and Dark Eldar list.
That's why it's not traditional, because you run out of the 7 units in the Harlequin book, whatever it is.
Indeed. So there's only 3 fusion boats in this list. And 3 fusion boats, 11 Skyweavers.
Okay.
But then there are
2 squads of 5, 1 of 1?
One of 6, 1 of 5. Sorry, 2 units of Skyweavers. 1 unit of 6, 1 unit of 5.
Skyweavers?
They did.
Okay.
60 racks.
Hey. Now this is before the new book as well.
This is before the new book, so they're not.
They don't all have liquefiers.
No, these are the Prophets of Flesh rather than Dark Technomancers. But 60 racks all the same is a pain to get rid of in the game.
It's another one of those lists that you think is going to probably be able to tank the AdMech a little bit, right? Rather than something that's going to push it off completely.
Very much so. Because as we all know, if you don't wipe those rack units, they're coming back. It's just there's an absolute mess of stuff there, and you've got the fusion boats and the Skyweavers dancing around, causing problems. Yeah. And those Skyweavers will be, those AdMech chicken walkers. If they poke their faces out, the Skyweavers will pick them off the board.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
And there's not too much to go into here, just because Drukhari have had a new book, and therefore the 60 rack detachment isn't really as notable as it is now. I mean, it is, but for different reasons, and therefore any discussion about why we've done this doesn't really matter too much. The Chaos list we've already talked about a bit. So we saw the AdMech pick the Harlequins. I think the Harlequins does better for the Ukrainians later on in the pairings than the Chaos one does. What do you think?
I think they picked. I think it's very right. I think that if you're the German AdMech and the Germans. Those Warglaves and those Terminators, as an AdMech player, you don't want to be facing that because the Warglaive, it's just going to. It's got one mode and it's run forwards, but it's going to run forwards very effectively. And I don't think there isn't enough shooting in the AdMech to stop them all getting in.
Yeah.
And they will rinse those. And again, yes, you can make one of those radar units, screen units run away. There's only one. One's going to get rinsed, and the next turn, and then you can run out of space quickly. Also, the fact that typical thing of the AdMech is having the bomber there to slow the key assault units down does absolutely nothing. Yeah. Against that army, because the Terminators come down for reserves, you can't bomb them, and the Warglaves don't go. The War Dogs don't care. Yeah. So I think they've taken the Harlequin matchup there because it's a ton of racks, and the racks are an absolute grind to deal with, but the racks are not doing anything.
Yeah, it's like a 12-8, isn't it, really? And I'm looking at the Chaos list as well. I mean, I've talked to enough Armada players that they complain about not getting light boards. And you know exactly what the AdMech's going to do. It's been put down to get one of the light boards. And so if you can play AdMech, deny a light board away from the side of the Chaos player, and take it for your AdMech, that's just a good scenario for you going into the third rounds of pairings, right?
Absolutely.
Cool. So we'll go on to the next defender for Germany. This is the round 3, the third defender pairings, a real meat of the pairing section. So what Team Germany decides to do is they defend with their sisters. Now, this is something we've seen done quite a few times with people third defending their sisters and then just saying, hey, I can take quite most of your matchups here at this point, so I now get to pick between 1 and 2, and then I'll just attack with the 2 things that I would assume would probably want to avoid the things that I'm going to get attacked with, and then pass your thing off to the next list, right?
Exactly.
So
and the sister list is actually. My notes here super standard. It's 3 Serpenti, 3 Refuges, 10 Seraphim in one big unit. There's no offense, there's nothing stand out there. No, but as we know, sisters basically there is basically sort of 1,600 to 1,700 points of sisters, super standard, and then 300 points of flavour. It's very effective. That's the reason why everyone's running it.
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And then they get attacked by the Necrons, which are very good into the sisters, actually, because it's one of those where it's so hard for sisters to push into them, right? And then they also get attacked by the Eldar. So let's go for the Eldar first, mate, because I think the Eldar one is one that's probably a little bit weirder to attack the sisters with, because they do tend to have quite high costs per unit anyway. So when you start screening out and trading stuff, you tend to trade down. What's this Eldar list look like?
Well, this Eldar, we talked about this previously. I think it was 2 weeks ago we talked about this. This is Feder, who, for those who don't know, Feder is a absolute legend of the WTC community. He's been going for forever, and he is a Darkcraft player. He plays Eldar. That's all he plays. So he is what Adam Calero would call a faction master. And this is a list we talked about previously. We talked about this is a very interesting list in the fact that it trades well as well. It is there's a patrol attachment. I'll actually read through it because it's so interesting. I actually worth reading through it. So there's a patrol attachment, hunters, ancient relics, expert crafters. No real surprise there. Spirit Seer, Aurelia, who is the Shadow Spectre Phoenix Lord. It's basically a flying fire prism with the strength 8, the big shots, the strength 8 shots.
Tiny.
And she's tiny. She's a little model that fires 3 strength 8 massive damage shots, and buffs the Shadow Spectres as well. There's a Wraith Seer because we're playing Forge stuff, and Wraith Seers are super solid choices. It is then for a unit of 15 Guardian Defenders, 13 and then a platform, so 15 model Defender squad there. Obviously, you can buff those with psychic powers and that, so they're quite resilient, great back four, or a great scream. Nice big unit to string out and scream with. You then got 2 units of Shining Spears with the Exarchs.
How big are those units of spears, mate?
They're 5.
Okay, so they're not like big hammers. They're kind of more like I'm going to go off and pinch stuff.
I'm going to go off and kill. I'm going to run into something and kill it and trade well. And then I'm going to go, hey, I'm a 3+ save. Waste too much energy getting rid of me afterwards. Rather than, like say, rather than an investment your army it swings around. These are trading units. Then it's got a spear detachment, again, which is masterful shots and expert crafters. It's got masterful shots. When we get down, you'll shoot very quickly. It's got a Farseer Skyrunner and a Warlock Skyrunner. So there's your buffers. 5 Warp Spiders, a cheeky little Viper, and a 2 units of 5 Shadow Spectres. And Shadow Spectres don't know. Shadow Spectres, go on Wikipedia, the best website in the world, have a look. Shadow Spectres are great, and they've got an inherent -1 to hit. They are jump infantry, and they basically fire the fire prism, the small shot, the strength 6 shots, the fire prism. And they're going to be getting buffed off really, as we said earlier.
They're very bouncy, very fast, very annoying, and they hit quite hard. So it's
and because they're bouncy, they ignore terrain, and they're good, mobile, trade, take position. He's then got heavy support. He's got 3 Shadow Weavers. He's heavy supports. For his support weapons, he's got 3 Warwalkers, single Warwalkers, and 2 Night Spinners. So
it's very much MSU into the sisters, right? You can push out 1 Warwalker and 1 Walker and not really worry too much about it. You can take the sisters quite nicely. And that might be why they got rejected in favour of the Necrons, which are historically a bad matchup for sisters, just like the Death Guard are. What do you think of this Necrons list? Is it something that could trouble sisters, or is it a little bit quirky and that might make the sisters think
this is Dimitri, who is the actual Ukrainian captain.
Yes, Dimitri.
This list is, it's the Void Dragon and Nightbringer.
Well, that's why they thought we could take it, because it's got a Void Dragon in it. That'll be why.
It is a Catacomb Command Barge. It is a Chronomancer, a Plasmamancer, a Psychomancer, 20 Warriors, 10 Immortals, 3 units of Scarab Swarms, a unit of 10 Death Marks. Interesting choice there. Not sure I'm sold on it, but go on. And then the Void Dragon and the Nightbringer. That's where your points have gone into, obviously, those 2 models.
Yeah, I feel like that doesn't trade quite as well into the sisters as a lot of Necron builds do, but that's probably where I've taken it, right? And that's why the Eldar are now down to the hook. So we'll move on to the 3rd Defender for Ukraine, and we'll work out what the hook matchups and the champions matchups are for this this round to see who wins the tournament. Ukraine, they stick out the Thousand Suns. Now, we've already established that Chaos Knights and Chaos Space Marines are not on the table for Ukraine in this build. So what have they included in this, Neil?
Well, this is actually a bit funny because it's not actually. It's the majority of this army is demons, not Thousand Suns. Clearly, Scrivo likes the Thousand Sun pictures.
It's got a demon in there, to be fair, mate. There's a horror
it has got
there.
demons.
We'll take that.
Yeah. So it is the demon section is Lord of Change, 2 blocks of 20 horrors, a block of 20 letters, a bunch of summoning points as well, and then the Thousands. The Thousands is essentially just 2 units of 5 spawn and some attendant characters. it's an interesting list. It's obviously a bloodletter bomb for dealing with damage, spawn for pushing up flanks and holding objectives, and then the big block of horrors and the unkillable or changing the center just to sort of like spaff out shots and powers, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is the list. It's a solid list. It's one that they haven't really changed all tournament. So it's obviously doing the work for them. The player who's running it likes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or we're just trying to give it a big chance by playing it for the maximum number of games as possible, right?
Exactly. And then going into that, the Germans obviously say they attack with their Harlequins, which is a Harlequin and Craftworld Eldar list. And then they attack with a Raven Guard and Ultramarine army. The Raven Guard Ultramarine army is 2 units of Vanguard vets, and then a bunch of attendant Raven Guard characters. And then the Ultramarine section has 3 Ultramarine Victor Warsuits and 6 Heavy Bolt attack bikes. I really like the inclusion of the Ultramarine Victors here, because Ultramarines obviously have access to that strategy, which allows them to redeploy models.
Yeah.
So you can deploy the Invictors very aggressively. And then if you don't get the first turn, you use the Ultramarine strat to pull them back to a certain defensive position. If you do get the first turn, you use the Raven Guard strats to push your Vanguards up.
And we have seen this already, I think, when we talked about the last time Germany played. They've been using this consistently throughout the event. It's clever, and I do like it.
Yeah, very like it, yeah. And I like the Heavy Bolter attack bikes, because a lot of people are big on the multi-mods right now, but the Heavy Bolter attack bikes are very cheap, and it's still a lot of reliable damage.
And it's a lot of reliable engage in all fronts as well. So you still get the same value, just for less cost. So in this one, we decided to pick up the Space Marines. Now, I think that Germany did this with one eye on the hook matchup anyway, thinking that they'd be able to bounce the Eldar across there, because I think the Eldar struggle into both of these. What do you think?
Yeah, because it was the other list is actually Fred the Captain. It's the Harlequins list, and this list is 5 fusion boats, 5 Skyweavers, 10 Shadow Spectres, and 5 Vibro Cannons. 2 units of 5 Shadow Spectres. It's a list that is mobile and MSUE, just like Fedder's Eldar list, but I think the crux here is those fusion boats.
Yeah, it's harder.
Those fusion boats hit harder and trade just a little bit better than what
it's hard to dig them out as well, because you've got to kill the transport and then you've got to kill the guys inside, but there's no downside because the guys inside can still shoot because you're a transport, so it works out kind of well, right? So I think that's a win for Germany on the third defender, but we'll have a look anyway. We'll move on to the hook matchup, which we've already alluded to. That is the German Harlequins list against the Ukrainian Craftworlds list, and we've just been through that very briefly. I think this is probably favourable to Germany, but maybe Ukraine got something in the Champions matchup. Let's have a quick look now.
Yep.
So we have the German Necrons, which we've already... I think we've already talked about this one, right? This is Erding's, right?
I accidentally spoiled it.
Okay, that's fine.
This is Erding's list, yes. Yeah. This is 3 units of 5 Wraiths, Transcendent Satan, Nightbringer, and buff characters.
Yeah, and this is into another Chaos list for Ukraine. They have a lot of Chaos in their comp, don't they?
But this is the list that's been getting bounced all tour. This is the list that Germany keep rejecting all so far. This is the 20 Terminators, and it's the 7 War Dogs with War Glaives. Yeah. So, and this is it, because this is favourable. I think this is favourable for Germany.
I agree.
Because you've got Wraiths, 3 up and verbal save. So they can actually
but yeah,
4
same
up,
point.
sorry,
No,
but still you're tanking well with them.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And then you've got the Satan, which will just delete those knights. Do not want to face Satan.
Yeah. And you're only acting on one phase really, other than melee, I guess. And if you're getting into melee, then it's like, well, maybe you get 3 wins on it. You've got 4 phase. It takes you 4 phases to kill this Catan. It doesn't matter when you're going to hit it. So yeah, you could just bully this around. I don't think it's a problem at all.
Exactly, and that's actually shown, because this is we spoiled this earlier. Simon took 20 points in this matchup.
Yeah. So if we're looking at it earlier, I think the rounds 1 and 2 of defenders were pretty even in pairings. But we've already talked about Hook. I think that's favourable to Germany. Yeah. Champion we've already established is favourable to Germany, and then the defenders are maybe close again, right? So when you've got the 2 swing matchups that are favourable to one side, I think that's probably going to flip it, and Germany are going to take this tournament. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree, especially with the fact as well, as we talked right at the start, that Germany's very first defender, their Death Guard player, took 16 points, which is a massive. When your first defender is getting a winning score out of a game, that is a massive flip to start with in what could be a tight matchup. Obviously, Simon getting a big 20 point scalp there is pretty huge.
Yeah, it's big.
The other scores, as we just alluded to, the Ukrainian Thousand Sons and Demons against the very clever Ultramarine Raven Guard of the Germans. The Martin, the German player, scored 16 points in that game.
Yeah.
So there are matches going in their favour.
Yeah.
Right now, the score, as we speak, they had 4 results in. It's 4 results in, and it's currently 61-19 points to Germany.
That's
so
brutal.
Ukraine have to win every single. The last 4
Yeah.
matchups, Ukraine essentially have to win them
Yeah.
to have a chance of winning this
I
event.
mean, maybe it's just the case that the 4 favourable German matchups are just the ones to come in, and we're going to get 4 favourable Ukrainian ones. But
maybe, but again, that Death Guard,
Yeah.
matchup, I wouldn't say on paper that's
no,
super
not at
favourable.
all. No.
And I can see, I think that or the champion matchup are going to be the swings.
Yeah, well, we've already had the champion matchup, right? It's going to be the champion is meant to be like even, and it was a 20, which is huge.
A 20, and a first defender getting 16 is huge. I think that's the swing there. That's what's going to swing the match, I think.
And that's the power of earning as a champion, I guess. Neil, that was a pleasure, mate. Thank you very, very much. We'll have to be back next week where we talk about the stats from the event, what conclusions we can draw from this with regards to team and singles play, and obviously who the overall podium was and who the eventual winner of this event was. But it looks looking very, very good for Germany at the minute.
It is.
Do you want to give...
those games? I'll say those games are getting played now. So Tom will hopefully put the Discord link in the chat before we leave.
After I have ended the stream, guys, I am going to get the Discord, get the invite link, and put it in the chat. If you want to go and watch those games, you can absolutely do that. Please make sure you go in with your microphone muted, because otherwise you'll get shouted at. Other than that, Neil, do you have any shout outs you want to give before we head off for the night?
Big shout out to, obviously, Typhus, Nikolai, the guys who've organised this tournament.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been a long haul the past 2 months almost, but it's been good to have some quality content to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've really enjoyed going through these as well. I've learned a lot from a lot of what the other teams are doing, even if we're not necessarily playing with them ourselves. So it's something I'll definitely apply. Thank you very much for everyone tuning in. Hermanista Colaru as well. Thank you for the card.
Actually, sorry, before I forget, sorry, Tom, before I forget, one last thing. There is going to be another TTS team tournament coming up, organised by the Poles, a 5-man tournament. So a little bit easier to get a team together for. If you go onto Team Poland 40k on Facebook, there's details on there. Definitely get signed up to that if you're interested in playing team events.
Sounds good to me, mate. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who subscribes on the Patreon and here and gives donations that allows Rob to go outside and scavenge for berries in the woods as he's currently doing. Thank you very much, everyone, again, for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next podcast. Bye.
Bye.